Let's bring in our panel now. Retired General Chuck Wald. He's the former Deputy Commander of U.S. European Command. He's now a Distinguished Fellow with the Jewish Institute for National Security of America. And Rebecca Grant is a national security and military analyst who serves as Vice President of the Lexington Institute. Great to have you both here. Welcome. Rebecca, I will start with you. Surely the regime knew this proposal would be dead on arrival. Gatekeepers of the strait, reparations, nothing about nuclear ambitions. What were they going for here?
They asked for everything short of a trip to Disneyland, and President Trump was rightly outraged. But what struck me about his remarks today was two things. One, he said he thinks he is actually talking to the right people in Iran, the right interlocutors. That tells me this negotiation is still very active. And second, the comment about the ceasefire. I suspect that CENTCOM has targets briefed and ready to go after some of those additional military targets if President Trump feels that pressure is necessary. And hey, I got to tell you, that trip to China would not interfere with intensifying operations if needed. Of course, for now, the U.S. Navy doing a great job on the blockade.
Yeah, I'm going to ask both of you more about that Chinese trip in just a moment. General Wald, I saw an article that you wrote, that you co-authored, and you've argued diplomacy gives Iran time to regroup and that military operations should resume. President Trump, you heard him, he said the ceasefire is hanging by a thread. Do you think negotiations are no longer viable?
Negotiations will always go on, but I really have no faith in the fact that the Iranians are going to kind of come through on this one. I mean, they have a lot of talk and very little action. I agree with Rebecca. I think that the Iranians understand strength. They understand the pressure that the United States military and the targeting we can do right now would put on their regime. I think they're more worried about staying in power than they are really winning this contest. But I'm not a firm believer in the fact that negotiations alone will take it will succeed in this case. I think we need to show the Iranians we're serious, and we're going to come back after them.
Rebecca, the question I've no doubt many Americans and lawmakers are asking is how degraded is Iran right now? How close do experts believe they are close to a nuclear breakout capability?
Well, their conventional military is like wiped out. No air defense, really big hits on the Navy, the industrial base, et cetera. As for the nuclear material, the nuclear dust, as President Trump calls it, it's not really dust, but there is the enriched uranium. It would have to be enriched yet again to make bombs. They are not able to do that. But we've got to make sure that in addition to that Isfahan site, anything else is accounted for, and that is still the #1 objective here of Operation Epic Fury and the current diplomacy.
Rebecca, let me stick with you here. I want to go back to that meeting you and I were talking about in China later this week. How much of this crisis is also a China story? Beijing is Iran's largest oil customer, has economic leverage over Tehran. Is China quietly helping Iran, even if it's indirectly?
Well, China's very responsible for the trouble and terror that Iran has wreaked on this world, no question about it. Will China step in and help? Don't count on it. But I'm telling you, I think there will be some serious pressure. You know, we don't want to see them selling any missile precursors or satellite imagery, et cetera. And I hope that President Trump slams them pretty hard. You know, the Chinese military, their eyeballs have popped out over what U.S. forces did to Iran's target set. And that's a good, strong deterrent message to China.
We have the best military in the world. There's no doubt about that. General, in that piece I mentioned that you co-wrote, and this is playing out, Iran's strategy is to outlast U.S. resolve through diplomacy and economic pressure. Does China intentionally or not help enable that strategy, at least when it comes economically?
Yeah, I agree with Rebecca again. I think the Chinese are helping the Iranians in several ways, both economically and probably militarily. I think we talked about this earlier today, but I think the message that President Trump needs to give to President Xi is that, hey, stop sending any military assistance to the Iranians, no air defense, no drones. And by the way, that discussion on the submarine earlier in the piece today, it's pretty tough to get through the Straits of Gibraltar without somebody seeing you. So I think that's a message to everybody that we're beefing up our military capability. That's not just a nuclear sub, it has conventional capability too. So, you know, again, it's going to have to be a diplomatic discussion, but the Chinese need to realize there's a penalty stroke if they continue to help the Iranians.
Well, General, could Beijing actually pressure Tehran to compromise if they wanted to? Do they have that much leverage?
I'm not sure anybody can stop the IRGC from doing stupid things, but I think the Chinese would have a pretty significant influence on the Iranians, primarily because that's where a lot of their aid is coming from right now, both monetarily and militarily. So yeah, they could influence the Iranians.
All right, General Chuck Wald, Rebecca Grant, we really appreciate all your insight tonight. Thank you for coming on.